Hello, I'm in London and it's raining cats and dogs, which is quite apt, at least for the cat aspect, because today I'm going to eat at the Lucky Cat by Gordon Ramsay, which is just behind me at 22 Bishopsgate. It's the highest restaurant in Europe. Now I'm actually drenched, socks all the way through, horrible, nasty, disgusting, so I'm going to go and dry off and I'll see you inside. For those of you who aren't au fait with the big smoke, our capital city, London, the Lucky Cat is pretty much in the centre of the city of London, between Bank and Liverpool Street. The very tallest building you can see here, shrouded in clouds, is 22 Bishopsgate, and it is up on the 60th floor. I think it's 62 floor building. So, like everyone says, it's the tallest restaurant in the whole of Europe. Now, this is a better view, which is actually taken the same afternoon to show you what a difference half a day can make with British summer weather. Now, the Lucky Cat didn't open that long ago. I think it was April 2025 and has got quite a following. Yes, being in the heart of the city, lots of people like me, city slickers and yuppies, have frequented this establishment, and it does get pretty busy, certainly during the week. Also, Mr. Ramsay had a little bit of controversy over the style of food, which is obviously Asian inspired, because he's not Asian. Everyone gets a hoo ha about it. But we'll park that one for the time being and focus on the actual restaurant itself. Bloody hell, it's good. Now I'm gonna cheat a little bit. So full disclaimer, I've actually been here. Well, I've actually been here 3 times. The first time was for an express lunch that they do, which is basically a bento box. The second time was for my anniversary, and we had the signature menu, which is the piece de resistance. So that's their ultimate tasting menu. And I've also been with lunch with a friend, and I hope she doesn't mind me calling her a friend. And we had an a la carte menu. There's quite a bit of overlap, so I'm going to ditch the express menu review because it's just a bento box, and I'll kind of fuse the other two into one, into a glorious Lucky Cat mush for you to enjoy. Obviously, if you suffer from acrophobia, which is a fear of heights, yes, acrophobia is the fear of heights, not vertigo. No, vertigo is actually the sensation you get from the fear. So it's different to the actual phobia itself. See what a useless wealth of brain dead information I am. Really, really good speed dating. Although maybe not at Lucky Cat by Gordon Ramsay, because it's a little bit on the pricey side. I'll stick to the Weatherspoons. Now, I'm not Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen, but the decor in this place was fantastic. It was very sophisticated, lots of amazing details, all very elegant, all very stylish, and it's actually quite big space, so you don't feel too cramped. And there's a few different areas as well, so it's nice and spread out. Fortunately, the weather had cleared up by the time we got up there, so the restaurant slash viewing platform was available, and absolutely stunning views as far as the eye could see. Beautiful. I imagine it might be interesting at night time too, but yeah, if it's grey, drizzly, and horrible, meh, probably not the best option. But that's enough of a preamble from me to pad out my running time. Let's talk about the food. Okay, we'll start at the very top with the signature menu. Yes, I know £130 is a lot of money. It's actually not a lot of money if you go to certain 3 Michelin star restaurants where you can be spending over 1,000, but that's a story for another day. Also, being the Avios floozy that I am, they were offering 10 points for every pound you spent. So quids in. In addition, Amex were offering £30 off £150 spend. So by the time we did this, got a bottle of wine, split the bill 50-50 with both of our Amex cards, we had over 3,000 points and then £60 off. Can't go wrong. So please don't judge me like everyone else does. The concept of Lucky Cat is more tapas style, so you're going to get smaller dishes to share and a couple of those bigger dishes, the steak and the pork and so on. Again, that comes whole, but cut in half, so you get to share it. Anyway, let's look at the signature menu. First out, we had the salted edamame. Edamame, I can never say that. Edamame. The green peas, beans. They were fine, actually quite juicy, quite plump. Not the little anemic ones you might get in various other Japanese institutions. The yellowtail tartar with caviar. A lot of this stuff comes out on a bed of ice, so the presentation was fantastic. The waiter comes and chops up the caviar with the yellowtail tartar. So fresh, so crisp, so it just tasted absolutely sublime. Next up was the baby squid. Oh, this was again, it was so light. The batter was fantastically crispy, but not gloopy, not greasy. And that's one thing I'll come on to all the fried stuff here that is no way greasy. It's just so fluffy and velvety. So big up to that baby squid. Absolutely delightful. We then move on to the sushi selection. Now, I absolutely adore sushi. It's probably one of my favorite foods, certainly one of my favorite lunches out there. And fresh sushi is absolutely sublime. It's something to die, well, not to die for. Actually, you probably could if you ate the dodgy pufferfish. What's it called? Fugu, that's it, fugu, highly poisonous stuff, and you need a license. The chefs in Japan need a specialist license to serve up fugu, which is obviously a type of sushi or sashimi from that fish. But yeah, that's probably a story for another day. So let's get back to the Lucky Cat sushi, and this was very, very high standard. The sashimi, so the slices of fish were lovely and plump and thick. The sushi tasted super fresh as well. Wasabi had a nice kick to it, and the ginger, of course, to cleanse the palate. All good. Now, I have been to Japan and I have had some sushi there. Whilst this isn't quite up to that standard, I certainly would say this is great. And actually, I'll come on to the sushi a little bit later. As I did have a variant on the sushi and sashimi dish for my lunch, and it's an interesting kind of comparison. But either way, for this dish, again, very good quality. Next on the menu is something that is arguably becoming one of Gordon Ramsay's flagships, which is GFC, his Gordon Fried Chicken. You'll tend to find this in quite a few of his different outlets. I recently went to one of his burger places, and they have a GFC chicken burger. Obviously, the C stands for chicken. That's like saying PIN number. The N stands for number. So you're saying personal identification number. Anyway, let's not get too distracted. GFC is actually one of my favorites. I do tend to like buffalo wings and all that sort of stuff. So having the chicken thighs, I think it is, fried, and you've got the nice hot Korean miso and the kaffir cucumbers. Fantastic crispiness. Again, not greasy, not stodgy, but the gentle. So it starts off gentle, and then there's a little bit of a kick through of warmth from the miso. But I do really like GFC. I have to say, it is a bit of a guilty pleasure, and I know it's not necessarily the biggest of portion sizes, but I probably would argue it's nicer than the KFC alternative. Let's move on to the mushroom tempura. Wow, the tempura. I have no idea what batter they use, what the secret ingredient is, or if they fry it in some kind of type of special oil, but so airy. So there's this lovely airy tingle to the crispiness, but without being very oily or greasy or anything like that. So nice big wedges of mushroom as well. So all good. However, this is where I get a little bit controversial that it comes with a black garlic emulsion. I wasn't the biggest fan, and that's nothing to say against the quality of the chef or something, but I found it a bit too punchy, a little bit too. Didn't really seem to complement it that much from my dullard taste buds. So I would probably say give it a try. But if like me, you say, I'll just stick to the nice tempura, and then I just use my soy sauce instead. The tempura was served alongside the scallops that came with yuzu and sweet corn. Now, let's say small but perfectly formed. If you're being a cynic like me, you might say this is a tiddy little tiny portion of scallops, and it was. However, they were cooked perfectly. They were springy. They were bursting with flavour, which for something so small, I have to give it some credit. Of course, if I was whining about small portion sizes, let's wait for the next two courses, which were de facto main courses because they were full size plates. Firstly, we had the ribeye. Pretty straightforward, to be honest. Nothing too exciting or bold or avant garde. It was just a
well-cooked steak. Well, medium rare well-cooked steak, if that makes sense. Likewise, the Chilean sea bass. This was massive. It was so thick. It was so juicy, and it was so big. And that was all washed down with the egg fried rice. A little bit of theatre. The waiter comes along, like gently sort of poaches the egg into the rice. That was all right. But one thing I will say, actually, both with some of the dishes here, is you don't get a fork or a knife by default. You stick with chopsticks. That's all well and good, but sometimes some of the more moist things, like the egg fried rice, like the Chilean sea bass, it was so well cooked and lovely and soft. But that moisture meant it could be a little bit difficult to get to grips with the food. All of them were super yummy, but I ain't gonna lie that I was getting pretty bloated by this point, and it was a little bit of a struggle to finish it off. And then, of course, we had the cherry blossom and chocolate delice after, served with security cherry and whiskey ice cream. If you have a sweet tooth and you like chocolate, this was absolutely divine. And oh, there was a good old waft of whiskey in that ice cream. Luckily, it wasn't too big, back to being small again, so I was able to struggle through that and finish the signature menu. A quick aside, this is my first attempt at a restaurant review. I have historically stuck to travel. I've sprinkled in a little bit of food here, so hotels, flights, airport lounges, and the like. But if you have enjoyed my foray into something a little bit different, obviously please do like and subscribe, because this sodden old sod could do with your support. But anyway, let's get back to the video, because now I'm going to do a quick comparison with my follow-up lunch at Lucky Cat. This lunch we went a la carte, or off the card if you don't speak French. There is quite a bit of an overlap, so we had another batch of the baby squid. That was pretty much equal, completely identical to the first one in terms of its taste and texture and all that. The only thing was it was slightly lighter, I think, slightly lighter in terms of the colour, but all really good. That's definitely one of my favourites. For the sushi, rather than going for individually, we went for the 5-piece nigiri selection, which came with a good variety, including one with a little bit of caviar on the top. So you're sprinkling of caviar for class. And then the 6-piece sashimi section, rather like the previous sushi, it was very thick fish, very fresh tasted, served on a nice bed of ice, and some of the best sushi I think you're probably going to get in London, at least outside of a 2 or 3 Michelin star Japanese restaurant. And we are back with another fan favourite of GFC. I really can't say anything more than this, than definitely try, and either whether it's here or whether it's in one of his burger places or anywhere else you can find it. I really like this. Certainly, if you're a big fan of those buffalo wings and Frank's hot sauce, other hot sauces are available. And we finished off this time with a grilled octopus, which I have to say was lush. It was girt lush. It was a nice, pretty generous portion, but the octopus had been cut into very thick chunks, so it had an element of texture and softness, but a bit of firmness. That sounds a complete contradiction, but it was such a specific, weird taste that was so good, so good. And there was also a sort of an aftertaste of a certain charry barbecue vibe to it. So I would thoroughly, thoroughly say give the grilled octopus a go if you can, or if you're obviously not allergic to octopus or anything like that. Other things you need to know is there's a decent enough wine list. Prices start maybe around £38. I actually did have what I suppose would be de facto house wine, and even that was actually very crisp, very fragrant, very fresh. So I would even go for the house wine is absolutely fine. And definitely a shout out to the toilets, wonderfully designed, but also Kel Surprise, probably one of the best views you can get from a toilet in the city of London. And for me, that encapsulates the selling point, the USP of Lucky Cat by Gordon Ramsay. The views are absolutely breathtaking. Some of the best I've seen in London. Totally panoramic. Wherever you sit, you get something particularly special. The other thing is in terms of the food. Now I've been to a few nice. I've been to some 3 Michelin-starred restaurants like Restaurant Gordon Ramsay and Alinea in Chicago and a few others. Now, whether this could quite get up to Michelin star level, maybe that's what they're aiming at. Yeah, who knows? But what I will say is, from my experience, the food is nearly faultless in terms of presentations, in terms of taste, in terms of crispness. Yeah, it doesn't quite have the over the top flamboyance. I did see some dry ice knocking around and all that kind of stuff, but it seems a bit more down to earth, pardon the pun, for the highest restaurant in Europe. The other things are the decor. I say the style was really nice, very sophisticated. Oh, and I didn't mention the staff. There seems to be a ton of staff on in this place, but everyone is, well, hats off to whoever's training them. But they are all very consistent. They're all very polite. They're all very friendly. They're not sort of, they're fairly informal. Not sort of like, oh mate, how's it going? They're not obviously too snooty and oh hello sir, where do you want to have this? That kind of stuff. But yeah, big shout out to the staff there. They were super nice. And before anybody asks, and before anybody accuses me of this, no, absolutely not. I did not steal the little figurines, yes, the little golden cat chopstick holders that people have been teasing since it opened. I didn't touch them, honestly, Governor. And that's true. That's true. Anyway, let's try and strike a bit of a balance with the wrap up. And I know the price tag will probably put a few people off, and that's absolutely fair enough. I personally don't think it will be really worth it just to go for the express lunch with a bento box, although if you want the view, then that's absolutely fine. Instead, I would maybe look at saving for a special occasion where you can combine some great food, some great wine, some great service, with some great views. But please do let me know if you've been to the Lucky Cat and what your experiences were. Were they as good as mine or were they awful? As I mentioned, this is my first ever restaurant review. So if you would like to see my attempt at my first ever hotel review, then you can watch this video about my little jaunt over to the United Arab Emirates.